This is PatternPal Pro, and it lives in your browser. You don't have to download anything, and it works on your computer or your tablet with touch controls and pinch and zoom. And let me show you a little bit about how it works. So the first thing that you can do, and the most simplest, easiest thing you can do with PatternPal, is you can test how your patterns look, their eye flow, and how they are tiling. In order to do that, there are 3 ways that you can drop your pattern into PatternPal Pro. You can drag and drop it, you can paste it in, or you can click this upload pattern button and it will automatically populate it into the canvas. Now there are 3 different types of repeat types that you can test on PatternPal Pro, and that is full drop, half drop, or half brick. The pattern that I'm using for this demonstration is a half drop, so I will choose half drop. The next thing I want you to notice is over here on zoom control, it is going to show you the original tile size of the tile that you brought into PatternPal Pro. For example, the one that I'm using is a 10-inch by 10-inch pattern tile at 300 DPI. The next thing that you can do in PatternPal, just to be able to look or zoom in or out on your pattern, is use this little zoom slider. So you can make it really small so that you can look, get a kind of bird's eye view of the eye flow and how the pattern is working. Or you can even zoom it all the way into 200% to be able to look a little more closely at your pattern. Now, the next thing that I love to do is I like to see where my pattern tile actually is. It can help me if there are things that are off about it, kind of orient myself to where on my pattern I need to fix things. So for that, there is a little option here that says Show Tile Outline. If you click it, it will automatically bring a box, whether it is a rectangular pattern or a square pattern that you upload. It will outline your pattern tile at exactly the same inches that you brought it in at, regardless of what your zoom is. So for here, you'll see that it marked it at a 10 by 10 tile. And this is important because let's say that there is a flower or something, a motif in your pattern that's a little off. Instead of you having to try to figure out where it is, you can turn on your Show Tile Outline. It will then orient you back to just your pattern tile, and it'll give you an idea of, oh, it's in the bottom right corner, or oh, it's in the top right corner. I need to go back to my program, whether it's Procreate, Illustrator, Photoshop, Affinity, whatever it is that you drew the original pattern in. It will help you figure out where that error is, and you can get to it and fix it quicker. If the other thing I added to this is, let's say you have a lot of blue, the tile outline default color is this light kind of cyan blue. If you want to change it to pop more against your pattern, you do have the option of clicking on outline color and changing that tile outline to whatever you would like. The next thing that I want to talk about is something that's really important, and that is scale. So as a surface pattern designer, you need to be able to export and view your patterns at different scales. And a scale is how big that repeat tile actually prints. Wallpaper, you're going to have larger scales. Let's say a baby headband or newborn clothing, it's going to be a much smaller scale. If you put the same scale from your wallpaper onto newborn clothing, you could have an entire flower covering the baby. So we need to be able to, as surface pattern designers, be able to view and export our patterns at different scales. You can now do that with PatternPal Pro. So let's turn our tile outline back on here, and you will see it's at 10 inches by 10 inches, which is that original tile size. If I want to preview my pattern at a smaller size or a larger size, you can do that on PatternPal Pro. So this is starting off as a 10-inch. Let's say I want to view it at 4 inches. I will type 4 into the scale preview, and it will automatically scale that original pattern tile to repeat at 4 inches by 4 inches. And you can test that by turning and toggling on that show tile outline to make sure that it has rescaled properly. Once you've gone through and you've tested your scales, you can reset to your original tile size by pressing this reset to original, and it will automatically bring it back to that original tile, which was 10 inches by 10 inches at 300 DPI, or whatever your pattern tile is. The next thing I want to show you is something that we all need, and that is the seam analyzer. So let's look at this pattern right here. It looks like it is tiling seamlessly, like there are no issues. But unless you zoom in, you will not know. And sometimes you have something that looks like it is seamless, and then you send it to a client or you upload it to a print-on-demand shop online, and you find out after the fact that your seam was actually broken. You can eliminate that now by using PatternPal Pro and using the seam analyzer. When you click on seam analyzer, it will automatically bring your pattern and zoom it into 200%. You can go as high as 400%. Just know when you go 400%, you will see some pixelation. That's perfectly normal. It's because we're expanding our pattern by 400%. You can go down to 100% zoom or 50% zoom. When you first click on Seam Analyzer, it is going to automatically zoom in to the 4-corner intersection of where your tiles meet up. And that is so that you can kind of see the left and the right and the top and the bottom seam all in one place. I'm going to zoom into 200%. Another thing you can do is you can toggle that seam line on and off. So I'm noticing here if I zoom in at 400% and I toggle off my seam line, I'm seeing there's, kind of this little weird line right here. So I'm going to test this out a little more. And you can test it out by using your mouse, or if you're on an iPad, you can use your fingers to pan and kind of zoom in and out on this seam analyzer. Here's another little spot that looks a little off to me. And it looks like, yep, it looks like that leaf didn't quite continue right there. Show my seam line back on again. Keep going. Let's go right here to this little brown part on the inside of the flower, turn my seam line off, and yep, it did cut off some of my image. So even though this pattern looks perfectly seamless, when you zoom in on it, and remember, if you're printing it on wallpaper or a larger product, you're going to be able to see those little lines that are cut off. So this is going to allow me to preview those seams before I ever upload it to a shop or ever send it to a client. And it'll catch those little mistakes that just looking at your pattern tiled like this are never going to find. The next tool that I want to talk to you about with PatternPal Pro is pattern analysis. And this is a big one. How many of you have ever printed a sample or gotten a sample of a product or a fabric swatch, and it looks completely different than what was on your screen? And there's a reason for that. So screens themselves are backlit, so everything's going to seem brighter and have more contrast. When you print things onto actual product or substrate, it absorbs that color. So imagine you could have a cotton, or you could have twill or a corduroy or a minky, and that texture is going to actually make your pattern look different. It's going to absorb those colors. It's also going to create some hidden shadows with the depth or the texture of your fabric. And this tool, the pattern analysis tool, is going to give you a little bit of a heads up before you do that to let you know, hey, you might need to tweak those colors. So let's click on pattern analysis. So the first thing you're going to notice when you open up pattern analysis is it's going to give you a contrast check. And it's going to give you whether you have high contrast, low, soft, or your contrast is way off and you need to tweak it. So for this one, we have high contrast because I use that darker background color, but my global contrast here is only 80%. So it's not at 100, which is good because unless you're working black and white, you're not really going to get 100% contrast. But it's letting me know that I have strong visual impact, that my motifs are going to really stand out. And it works great for most commercial patterns, especially small scale prints and print on demand. Now, one thing you can do, regardless of what your contrast check, what score it gives you can click on Learn More, and it will actually go through even more information about your contrast, whether it's good, what products it would work on, and if you have a contrast that's low or needs help, it'll give you information on how you can fix it. The next thing down is composition analysis, and this is just going to give you a basic idea of your balance of your pattern, the overall eye flow. Is it balanced? Are there motifs that are standing out and drawing attention? Are there things that you need to work on to get better rhythm in your pattern? This one right here is balanced at 92%, so I know I'm doing really good at kind of having that a good kind of flow and balance to my pattern. Now, the final thing that you can get in pattern analysis is going to be your color harmony. So you can have good contrast without good color harmony, or vice versa. You can have good color harmony without good contrast. And you need both of them to work to be able to ensure that your patterns are going to be print worthy and professional worthy. So the first thing that pattern analysis does with your color harmony is it reads all of the main colors in your pattern. Now, I'm going to let you know if you have scanned a watercolor pattern or you have something with very high texture in it, it could pull colors from your pattern that aren't your primary patterns. It could pull a shadow color or a highlight color that aren't your main colors in your pattern. And I've already figured out a way to help you with that if that is the case. So for here, it pulled all of my main colors in my pattern. It lets me know that it is a complementary pattern, and it lets me know that it's harmonious. If it isn't, it will give you other errors here. And just like with your color contrast, you can click Learn More, and it will give you ways on how to fix it if your color harmony is off. Now, what if it pulls colors from a high texture pattern or watercolor pattern that aren't your full colors, and it gives you an error, but you know your colors are working? And here's how you fix that. So all of these colors down here, if you run your mouse over it, you're going to notice there's an X. So you can remove as many colors as you want, or let's say it pulled a green and then it also pulled the green shadow, and you don't want both of those to be involved. So what you do is you can remove any of the colors that you don't want it to analyze. You can click the little plus button, and then you can go in and you can pull any new colors from your pattern, and it will then add that and recalculate your color harmony. So if you ever don't like the colors that it pulled, you can change it, and you can make sure and assure yourself that you have good color harmony. So if you have good contrast, good composition analysis, and good color harmony, chances are your pattern is on its way to being licensed and professional worthy. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is we're going to go back to scale preview, and we're going to look at mockups. Because here's the thing, it's great that you can preview your pattern at a new scale, but how do you know what scale you need to upload to your print-on-demand shops? Or how do you know what's going to work for the product that you're trying to license to? So what we have here is we have a mockups section. And what I did is I went ahead and chose the 6 leading avenues in surface pattern design. So I have kind of children's wear. I have a baby onesie. I have a fabric swatch. I have wallpaper. I have a throw pillow, which would fall into home decor. I then have a wrapping paper, and I have a hardcover journal. So what you're going to notice here is each of these mock-ups has a size on it. So the baby onesie is the size of a 12-month baby onesie, 12-inch by 12-inch fabric swatch. This wall, what you're viewing, is 86 by 60 inches, and so on and so forth. And the reason this is here is so that you can visually see what a scale is going to look like exactly on the product you're mocking up. No longer do you have to pull a mock-up up in Photoshop or one of the other programs and manually scale it up and down until it looks right. And then once it looks right, you still don't have any idea what scale that is. I fixed that with PatternPal Pro. So what you're going to see here is, let's say we switch this scale preview to a 4-inch repeat. We're going to make sure it's a 4-inch repeat. We'll show our tile. It did in fact rescale it to 4 inches. It's going to keep that scale, and when you go into your mock-up, it's actually going to show you a 12-month baby onesie, and it's going to show you based on whatever repeat scale you currently have chosen. So this will let you know on a 12-month baby onesie, a 4-inch scale repeat should probably be what you should export. One of the things that I did as well on this baby onesie is, if you click right here on trim color, you can actually choose the eyedropper, and you can go in here and you can actually pull a color from your pattern to adjust the trim on the baby onesie. And then in addition to that, you are welcome and free to download high-res versions of these mock-ups with your patterns, and you are free to use those in your portfolio, on social media, and client presentations. You can go through and you can check all of them. So again, this would be that 8-inch by 8-inch box for wrapping paper. This is what it would look like at a 4-inch repeat. You can also change the bow color on this mock-up. So you can choose any of the colors from your pattern, and it will change the bow color to be able to get it so that it looks presentable. You can download it in any of the mock-ups. The final thing that I'm going to show you in PatternPal Pro is actually my favorite and my most used tool, and I call it EasyScale. And this is where it's going to save you hours and hours of work. So you've created your pattern, you've checked your pattern analysis, you've checked your seams, you've downloaded your mock-up so that you can add it to your portfolio and your social media and your client presentations. But now it's time to actually export your pattern in multiple scales so that you can upload it to print-on-demand shops, to Spoonflower, or send to a client. And that's where EasyScale Export comes in. So when you click on EasyScale Export, you're going to notice the first thing that it's going to do is it's going to remind you that your original pattern is 10 by 10 or whatever yours is, and what DPI it is. And it's then going to give you the max export size that you can do without pixelation. And here's the key here. I built in safety factors where it will not let you export something that will have any pixelation. It's not going to let you export beyond what your pattern is allowed to be exported at. So you don't need to understand what DPI is. You don't need to understand any of that. EasyScale knows, and it's going to keep you from making any mistakes or exporting anything that isn't professional. The next thing you have to do is you can choose any of these sizes. If any of these sizes aren't allowed, it will gray it out. It won't even let you pick it. So the first thing we can do is we can select from these 8 predetermined sizes. There's also a place where you can add a custom size. What is your target DPI? Do you want to keep it at 300? If you do, again, if you notice, it will gray out anything that's too big. It won't let you export anything too big. Or Spoonflower loves 150 DPI. That's what it prints at. If you want to export for Spoonflower specifically, you choose 150 DPI. And then you can go in and you can choose, let's say I want a 2-inch, a 6-inch, and a 12-inch. And then for some reason, you know what? I had a customer call me and they really want a 7-inch repeat. You can go in here where custom, you can type in 7, click add. It will add that 7-inch export as well. You can then choose, what do you want it exported as? Do you want PNG? Do you want JPEG? Or do you want TIFFs? I have a lot of clients that request TIFF files. You can also export TIFF files with EasyScale. And then down here, there's a little toggle and it says include original tile in export. And there's a few reasons why you may or may not want to do this. If you want to make sure you're keeping everything organized in the same place, you can click include original tile in export and it will make sure it includes your original with all of your export sizes all in one zip file. Once you're done choosing all of your scales and your DPI and your format, you simply choose Export. It will bring up an area for you to choose where you would like it downloaded. Simply click Save. And when it's done, you can open up that file. It will be a zip file. Unzip that. And if you notice here, it downloaded all of the files and named them for what they are. So it kept the original name of the pattern. It then put 2-inch, 6-inch, 7-inch, 12-inch, and original all into the folder. And it also added what DPI those files are to the back end of your file name. So these are now exported and ready to go to be uploaded to any print-on-demand shop or sent to a client. I built PatternPal Pro because I was frustrated. I was frustrated that there were no tools out there for surface pattern designers to be able to have a start to finish workflow where they can test, print, view, scale, and analyze their patterns. I hope you've enjoyed this little walkthrough of PatternPal Pro, and I can't wait to see how it enhances your workflow, saves you hours, and helps you to view and understand how your patterns are going to work on product before you upload or send to a client.